Hello, everyone. It's Monday. Just showing off some things here. Hello. This isn't a Red Bank shirt, but it's very near and dear to my heart. And that's why I'm wearing it today. We'll get into our agenda here momentarily. It's pretty short for the end of the year. It's our last meeting of the year. I have had a couple of folks reach out asking me if I've seen, things that have been going on the internet today, regarding Pizzeria Cortile. And I have, and somebody asked if I was going to make a comment on it. And, I guess my main comment is that, as a city, we can't dictate how private businesses run their business or operate things. But we as consumers and customers can decide where we want to spend our money. And so I think that's my comment. This is my comment. So I hope that maybe some learning and growing happens. We'll see. So as far as business goes, we'll be getting our monthly financial update from our CFO, Chris Pickle, tomorrow. So if you want to just keep up with where we are with our current budget spending, tune in for that in the work session at 5. Also, only in the work session, we will be getting briefed on public works goals by Director Greg Tate, and projects that they've been working on really over the past 1 to 2 years, things that we have been implementing to help streamline, make services more efficient, and also just some project updates. So you're going to hear about, all the different divisions that we have. The Public Works Division, underneath it, we have Facilities Management, Parks and Rec, Streets, Solid Waste, Stormwater, and Fleet. And we're going to be getting updates on a lot of those projects. And what's really cool for me, and if you're like a government wonk, is this new software that we've been using called iWork. That helps, you guys can put in work order requests now for like bulk trash and brush pickup. And, if you see that there's like a pothole in the middle of the road, you can put in these requests digitally any time of day or night. The executive office manager, Kate Hackney, she gets all of that delegated out every morning when she comes into work. And so now we have a way of actually tracking all of the many and varied services that our Public Works Department is doing for our community and has been doing for years and years. And there was just no way to track that. So you're going to be hearing numbers around how many tickets that they had and that they were, completing throughout this year and last year. And I think that's just really important to know as far as accountability and how people are like, oh, our taxes went up and this and that and whatever. Well, if you want to know where your taxpayer dollars are going, you should tune in for this update tomorrow because you're going to hear all about it. And honestly, if you're like me and you're really paying attention, you're going to be surprised that they've been able to do what they've been able to do, even with the tax increase. So I'm really excited to hear from Director Tate on all of the public works things going on and that have been completed and that are still in progress. One of which we will talk about at the end of this agenda. So item number 3 is just another item that's just at the work session. We're going to be getting a presentation on a proposed updated policy around social media and internet usage for like our employees and elected officials to a degree. Just basically like this just is very, what's the word? This is commonplace everywhere you work. There's some kind of social media and internet policy. I mean, if you're going around and you're saying nasty things about people and you're wearing like your work shirt, you can be seen to be representing your employer. And so we have a policy around that so that there can be accountability measures implemented if needed, and hopefully not. But for us as elected officials, really it's more geared around, if we are talking or commenting in a public space, that those comments are on the internet, that those comments are subject to public records requests. So that's why I am very hyper aware of that. So I say what I say, and and everybody else can say what they want to say. If you're being nasty, I will probably not respond to you. But, it's your prerogative to say what you want to say. But all of that does become part of public record along the way. So just everybody keep that in mind and be mindful of that. Item number 4, I'm really excited to talk about this. This might sound boring, but also it's going to kind of help with the boring, what some people might think of as boring bits of our agenda. So this apparently has been kind of in progress and been talked about for within, internally from a staff perspective for like the past year or so. And we're finally at the place where we have an ordinance ready to present to the commission for us to have discussion on. And it is regarding amending our order of business of our commission meetings to include what's called a consent agenda. And I don't have the definition in front of me, but basically, very basically, consent agenda, and this is used by governments at, everywhere. The Hamilton County Commission uses a consent agenda, and it is for very routine, simple, non-controversial agenda items. So when we have, approve our minutes every meeting, and we have to have a first and a second, and then we have to vote, and then we have to first and a second and a vote. And we have to do that depending on, if we had our work session meeting, a regular meeting, a beer board meeting, whatever. And so we have to do that each time. And then there are things like, we're approving a purchase for new, tires for the fire truck. Very non-controversial, just budget, regular expenses that need to occur. Appointments to advisory boards. Very kind of routine things. What happens is all of those get pulled into a consent agenda. They're not individual items. And then we, as a commission, as the mayor, I would say, we have the consent agenda here. Do we have any objections? And if there are no objections, then we don't even have to vote on it. Then it is, we might vote on it. We'll talk about what all that's going to look like tomorrow. But I've read, from different places that do it differently. If there's no objections, then it's approved. And then you move on. To regular business. And so you don't have to go through each item and read through each caption and all of that. Like Holly had to do for the past 4 years. Of course, she was like, wow, of course this is happening as soon as I'm not the chair anymore. I'm sorry, Holly. It's just going to streamline our meetings, make them a lot more efficient, because it's just some of those things can take up some time that's really not needed. But just with all of that, the caveat is that if there is a commission member that does want to have discussion on one of the items that has been put into the consent agenda, they can have it pulled and put on the regular agenda. So it would just probably end up, to be the last item on the new business agenda. And that's you don't have to have a second, you don't have to motion for that. Just any commissioner can say, I want to have a discussion about that. And so we say, okay, we're pulling that one and putting it in new business. Any other objections? No. Consent agenda is approved. So, this is just another step toward us kind of modernizing our processes as a commission. We've been really behind the times for a long time, but working on those things over the past 4 years and going to continue working on those things. So I'm really excited about that. tomorrow would be the first vote. It is an ordinance, so there will be a second vote at our next meeting in January. Item number 5 is us talking about authorizing a contract addendum. Number 2, a second addendum with Porch Design Solutions for additional professional services necessary for the completion of the Public Works Facility Building Program Study. And this will include deed research, property title search, platting, and an environmental assessment. Because it did used to be a gas station. We actually just finally this year had the underground storage tank removed. So they would do an environmental assessment to check and make sure there's no issues going on there. But this is at a cost of $97,200. Sorry, no more than $97,200. And that would be coming from the American Rescue Plan Act grant funds. So that was all already budgeted for when we allocated those funds back in the spring of 22. And yeah. So this has to be done. I've talked about our public works facility before. You guys have heard me talk about it. It was basically, all we know is we inherited it from the county. I don't even know how many years ago, decades and decades ago. And I think it was old when it got handed over to us. But some of the issues there were some, the TVA has an easement there to like get up to their water tower. So we're trying to figure out what is theirs, what's ours. And so that's where some of that property and deed search is going to be covering. That's what that's going to be covering. But that facility is going to have to be rebuilt. It just has to be done. So we'll be definitely 100% talking about that when we get to our commissioners retreat in February, and we're talking about capital improvement planning and our budget for next year. We're also going to be having a presentation soon about debt service and what that would look like for our city. We have contracted with a consultant who works with local governments all throughout Hamilton County, and he is going to help us get into a position where we know how much debt service we can carry along with our projected revenues. So I'm excited to have all of those conversations because these are all things that we're doing to invest back in our community to help us be more resilient. Item number 6 is acceptance of Tennessee American Water Company firefighting grant of $1,000. There's no match required. We apply for this. We've applied for it every year since I've been here, and we've always gotten it, which is really lovely. And this year, Chief Seiler said they're going to be using it to replace one of their training windows. So if you guys saw the video that got posted when I did my ride-along with the fire department, and we have, if you've seen near the recycling center, there's those big, what are those called? Oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart. The big metal storage containers that are there. They use those. They've actually built those out to do training in. And so they have these windows that are made where you can axe them, and then they break away, and then you can rebuild it, but you can only do that so many times. So this is a new window for their training. So it just cut the cost. It was a little over $3,000, so this made it just a little over $2,000 once we formally accept that. And then we have item number 7. This is a beer board meeting. I don't know if this is something that would be included on a consent agenda, so I'm just kind of talking this out loud, but this would be interesting to see or to talk about tomorrow. But this is just kind of a routine thing. They had a change in management at the Walgreens, and when they do, they have to apply for a new beer permit. So that's what we're doing. So they have a new manager who's going to be coming in and requesting that. And then adding a member to the Cemetery Advisory Board. That's the last item, and that's another item that could be included on the consent agenda. Freddie Hanner, who I think we all know, he has been in our community for a very long time with his insurance business. And he also currently serves, I believe, on our nonprofit advisory board. And then he recently, when we went on a tour of the field, the commissioners and some community members who are on the cemetery advisory board went with Megan Ledbetter, who is documenting and just doing so much research into the Potter's Field that we have here in Red Bank. He went with us, and I think he was just really impressed by the magnitude of that space. It's massive, and there's a lot of work that's going to have to be done and figuring out how to honor the folks who were buried there. So he will be joining our cemetery advisory board. And that's it. That's it. And in case you guys came in late, I see if you were here. I would just like to say that, I can only speak for myself. But we strive to be a very welcoming and inclusive community here in Red Bank. And while, we can't dictate what private businesses do, or say, or how they decide to operate, we can decide as private consumers, where we want to put our money, where we want to put our support, and we can just keep showing up for each other. And so that's it. I just wanted to let you guys know. Love you all y'all. And if you have any questions or need anything else, you know where to find me. And I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.